To a Halloween edition of Mentor Minutes. I'm Cameron, thrilled to be coming to you, and we're just taking questions. That's what these Mentor Minute sessions are for, taking questions from real live leaders around the world. So if you have a question, any obstacles, any struggles you've been facing so far in your leadership this week, go ahead, drop down in the comment section, drop the question in there, and I'll be sure to get to it right away. Now, before I start taking any questions, I did want to give a big announcement here. You might have seen it in yesterday's episode, but I am giving away free a bunch of 4-hour workshops where I come to you and your organization and tackle some of the main things that are frustrating you as far as leadership and development is concerned. So if you'd be interested in having me come to your organization, I'm waiving my fee. All you pay is travel and lodging for me, and I will come to you wherever you happen to be, whether that's Australia, New Zealand, Europe, or here in the States. Happy to do so. We've already had a bunch of people jump on that. I threw that out to my newsletter subscribers last week, and it is interesting. I'm excited to meet some of you face-to-face and start working on some of your issues. So with that being said, I'm going to drop into the questions today, and if you're coming to this Mentor Minutes episode a little bit late, no big deal. You can always drop it into the comment section. I check prior episodes to make sure I didn't miss any questions. Or you can direct message me through Facebook or email me, cm@cameronmorsey.com. Thrilled to be joining you today. And also, for those workshops, I have a link up above for some of the details in regards to that. So if you're interested in a workshop, free workshop with me, go to the link, see some of the details there. And with that being said, our first question that I received offline was, and I love this one, how do you get others to accept your ideas? How do you motivate your team? And the answer to both of those is somewhat similar. And that is the first thing that you want to get to is what actually motivates the individual. What is in it for them? All right, what's in it for me? With them. That's what you need to remember. So if you want to get your ideas across, how does your idea affect the other person? I use this a lot as far as getting your ideas across to your boss, let alone your employees, but getting your ideas across to your boss. If you want to do that, tie your idea to something that is personally important to them. What is their boss on their case about? What are the metrics they're paying attention to? What do they care about? If you show how your idea addresses one of those things, then it's going to be much more likely to get across the finish line. Now, when we talk about motivation, it's very similar. Too many of us try to cast a really wide blanket as far as motivation is concerned. We do one thing, we stick to that one thing. But what I often find is that if you actually get personal with people, start talking to them, asking them, maybe not necessarily what motivates them, but what do they care about? What do they like about their job? A couple of those questions will start giving you an idea. Too many times we default to say money. And don't get me wrong, money motivates people. But it isn't usually the primary motivator of people. It might be camaraderie. It might be an intrinsic desire to do a good job. When you know those things, you can start putting people together if it's camaraderie. You can start recognizing their contribution to the organization, and that can be a motivating factor. My big thing, if you want to get your ideas across and you want to motivate your people more, then get personal with them and make it individual and show them what's in it for them. That's going to be the big thing. Rocky, Julie, so good to see you join us here today. Next question I received offline was, how do you manage a situation where there is a decision, completely unpredictable, imposed on the team? So I'm going to go ahead and take a logical leap with this, and that is that the boss came down with a directive and a decision that impacts the team that you didn't foresee, didn't have any input on, any of that stuff. What you want to do is you want to get in touch with why the decision was made. Whether you agree with that reason or not, get clear on why that decision was made. The reason you do that is that then allows you to go forward to the team with the reason. All right, the most important thing is that they know that decisions aren't just made in a vacuum, that there is a reason behind those. Again, agree or disagree, they'll at least respect understanding why. The next thing is to actually engage the team. So it's not just you that is concerned about this decision. I'll call it a poor decision that came down from leadership. It's your team that's concerned about it. So why don't you all tackle it together? So come up with some ideas on how you're going to deal with this decision. How are you going to make it work? And what you do is you bring the team into that discussion, and that gives them a sense of ownership and a sense of activity towards the particular issue that's going on. That can be hugely important as far as getting buy-in and getting some satisfaction. That's a big thing with change management in particular, is to bring the team into the change, and then that whittles away at that fear of the unknown and gives them a sense of ownership and a sense of buy-in. So get clear on the why, and then bring your team into the discussion on how you're going to implement the decision, how you're going to deal with the decision, all of those things. That can be hugely helpful for you. Neil's got our first question online here, and it's, how do we encourage people to get out of their comfort zone and explore new opportunities? The biggest thing, Neil, is that what cuts people down from getting out of their comfort zone is that fear of failure. All right, I want to say that's the first thing. We can say that people want to be comfortable, people like the status quo, and they do. But what you want to tackle first and foremost is that it's okay to fail. Now, what you want to do in this case, Neil, is talk about a time that you fell short, that you didn't get it right, that you made a mistake, and what you learned from it. One of the most important things that a leader can do is tell people when they get it wrong. When you tell somebody, I really screwed that up, that gives them the okay, not necessarily to make mistakes. That's not what you're looking to do here in this case, but it gives them the guidance and the okay to maybe broaden out and get out of that comfort zone just a little bit. Second thing that you want to do is you want to give them opportunities and lay out the plan. All right, so the fear of the unknown is fear of making a mistake. So when you lay out an opportunity, highlight those opportunities where they can step out of their comfort zone, but then give them a little bit more of maybe a project plan or a step-by-step than you usually would. What that does is that cuts out that fear of the unknown of what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, all of those things. And that is going to be something that helps them jump on board to that new thing and get them out of that comfort zone. That can be a huge thing. Third thing is always talking about where they want to be. So this is where I'm going to dial back to that with them and what's in it for me. Why would they want to get out of their comfort zone? Why would they want to try new opportunities? If you've had the discussion with them, Neil, already about where they want to go as far as their career is concerned, as far as their skill set is concerned, all of those things, if you've already had that discussion with them, then it's easy to tie the new opportunities to that eventual goal. Give them a reason for stepping out of their comfort zone. Give them a reason for dealing with the pain of trying something new. It's not fun. None of us, we all talk about the benefit. I'll talk about the benefit of stepping out of my comfort zone. It's great, but it's not necessarily fun when I'm doing it. And so talk through those things, Neil. I hope that helps you out there. And as we've had some people jump on here, if you have any questions, drop down into the comments section. Happy to handle those right away. Also, check out, I'm giving out free workshops. You can see the link up above here on this video, or below, I think it's up above, on your screen, to check out some of the free workshops that I'm giving out. I'm going to fly to you, to your organization, and deliver a 4-hour workshop. All you cover is my travel expenses and lodging. I waive my fee and everything. It's just an opportunity for me to get out in front of more people, and maybe some different people than I would usually get in front of. So I'm excited about that. Already had some people jump on board that. So if you're interested, definitely email me as quickly as possible. Next question I received offline was, what are the best methods to handle a staff member who is disgruntled about not receiving a promotional position? And this, who knows, this could be the person that, for a friend, that happens to be them. If the person's disgruntled about not receiving the promotional position, the first thing to do, and this is a good lesson for everybody who is in a position of handing out promotions, and that is to make sure that you double back to the people that didn't get the job and explain why they didn't. And it can be, Cameron had just more experience, and that's why. So what we're going to do, and you give them action steps. What we're going to do is give you some more experience. It may be that it wasn't that Cameron had more experience, it's just that you didn't have the background in these areas that we needed. So this is what we're going to do to give you the background. So what you're doing is you're taking somebody who's disgruntled, and don't get me wrong, everybody's going to be disappointed. It's an emotional decision. No matter how rational they are in regards to it, they're going to be frustrated. But give them a reason why it occurred, and then give them action steps to improve themselves so that they're in line to get the position next time it comes around, all right? So reason and then direction. That's what you want to do. So in the case of this disgruntled employee, go back to them with the reason. Patty, so good to see you here. Go back to them with the reason and then come up with some action steps. This is where leadership becomes coaching, and your development of your staff is vitally important to you being able to accomplish all that you want to accomplish as far as your leadership is concerned. Next question is recently promoted, opposite problem. Recently promoted to a store that is totally off process. I'm facing major language barriers and unsure, for the first time, how to tap into what motivates the group. So I'll take a little bit of a different tack on this particular question in regards to motivation. So the team is totally off process. You've got some language barriers. So the main thing that you're going to want to focus on first is communication. Get crystal clear on you're going back to basics in this case. When you have an organization that is off process, off topic, not performing, get back to the basics. Make sure that everybody is clear on what are the goals of the organization. What are the expectations of the team as it relates to those particular goals. All right, so those two things, communicate that out, make sure that's clear. Now, as far as turning the ship around and getting them onto process, what I want you to do is I want you to start small. And this is going to be something that helps with the communication barrier that you have. This builds up some history between you and the team. I want you to start with one process that is small and obvious that they need to tackle. All right, something simple that they can go ahead and tackle, and something that is obviously being done the wrong way right now. And there's probably several of those. So I know you want to tackle the most important thing, but tackle something that's small and obvious this week. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take that win. You're going to book that win. It's like turning around a super tanker. It doesn't turn away right away. It's something that takes a little while to turn around. Quite a while, as in fact. So take this week, book a simple win. Then next week, tackle something else and get them on process on that. Again, something that's simple, maybe not quite as simple and small as it was this week, but something a little bit bigger. And again, something that's obvious, something that you don't have to fight any battles on, that it's clear what the why is behind it. Get that one, book that win, and then book another win. And what you're going to find is after you start doing this, people start seeing things work and how they're supposed to work, and they get used to doing things the right way, and it becomes easier and easier for you to flip these processes around. And it may be that 4, 5, 6 weeks from now, you start tackling 2 a week, and then all of a sudden, a quarter goes by, first 3 months on the job, and you've got this all taken care of. That's so good to see you. Thanks. Appreciate that. Kimberly has our next one, and that is thoughts on how you handle when you explain the why we have to do something and the with them. However, the individual who is in a leadership position does not follow the direction. What I do in this case, when you've been clear about those things, Kimberly, and awesome that you were, what I want to say is that it's easier to have these follow-up discussions then. When you've been clear in your communication, in the why, in the reasons, all of that, it becomes clear. And so I would actually start off this conversation of, hey, I know that we discussed doing this, but that doesn't look like what's in place. Can you walk me through the thought process or walk me through why it was that we didn't do this a particular way? So I want you to be curious first. So going back to this whole Stephen Covey thing, seek first to understand, then to be understood. So bring them into the discussion as much as possible. And that may be something that leads something down the road. Now, what you can do is you can also reiterate the why and the with them, what's in it for them, and ask for their thoughts on it. If they don't provide anything back, if they will not take the action that you are directing them to take, then it may be a situation where you have to start looking at disciplinary action to bring them online. I go back as far as accountability. I go back to the old story that I had where there was a process that we needed to put into place for a particular reservation. Very obvious that it needed to take place, but was told constantly that it couldn't happen. And everybody came up with all kinds of excuses. The why was there, everybody understood it. The with them was there, everybody understood it. But it took us actually writing people up and suspending one of our best people who couldn't do this, and then magically, poof, it goes away. As soon as we suspended that one individual for this infraction, there was not a problem to be had. If it was a clear oversight that was taking place. So avail yourself of those opportunities as well, Kimberly. So you've set the right foundation, open it up with curiosity. Hopefully that helps out. Good to see everybody jump on. Neil, glad you appreciate that. I am caught up, so if you have any questions, drop them down in the comment section. Otherwise, I'm going to tackle the next one that I received offline, and that is, as the dog decides to bark away, Halloween here, so I'm working from home today. Going to take the kids out trick-or-treating here in just a moment. Next question is, how do you get an employee to receive feedback? I have a young lady who is very good at her job, and she is one of my top producers. However, when I try to give her constructive feedback, she is very defensive. We've all had those employees. I've tried a few different approaches with her, and she is always diverts the conversation or says she is right. So when you want to give proper feedback to team members, you want it to be, first of all, very specific, and you want it to be very timely. So you want to deliver it right away, and you want to be very specific. Have your ducks in a row as to what went wrong. Now, especially in the case of defensive employees, you want to do just a little bit of research and a little bit of backup there. And so what you do is, if it's possible, you do something that's very black and white, very numbers oriented. Now, you can anticipate from these employees what some of their concerns are going to be, what some of their defensive mechanisms are going to be. Anticipate those arguments that they're going to make and have yourself ready ahead of time for it. Those employees that are always defensive, you know where they go with their defensiveness. So get clear ahead of time how you want to tackle that. And the next thing is to get back to first principles and larger goals. All right. The reason, and you can tell them, the reason we do it this way is because of this. And the reason for that is because it attaches to our goals in this way. It affects our goals in this way. And so if you have a different way of doing it that improves our chances of reaching our goals, then I'm all for it. And again, don't be afraid if they are not following policy. I know I just talked about this before, but if they're not following policy, it may be a time to go up the disciplinary ladder. Progressive discipline. So it's a verbal warning. You talk through it. You coach them. Written warning, you talk through it, you coach them. Second written, talk through it, coach them. Maybe all the way to suspension. You're still talking them through this particular issue, all right? They're playing a game, so much of defensiveness and people who aren't willing to take feedback are because it's a defense mechanism that they use that gets them out of uncomfortable situations. And they have been rewarded in the past for this. So if you make these conversations more painful, if you make the repercussions more painful, then it's easier for them to do what they need to do as opposed to not do it and then just deflect all of the conversation that goes on. Hope that helps out there. If anybody has any questions on that, that's a good one to follow up on. Pool or shared meaning? Nancy, I'm not understanding that particular question. I'm thinking about it here for just 1 second. Pool or shared meaning? No, I don't necessarily know what you mean by that. So if you follow up down here, I'll be sure to get to it. I will take one more question here while Nancy maybe clarifies her question. How do you deal with a narcissistic boss? Love that question. Dealt with that issue many, many times. Hopefully my team didn't need me to deal or didn't need to deal with that. When we talk about a narcissistic boss, what we want to acknowledge is that padding of ego. And you want to dance around it just a little bit. I wish there was a way to address it for real, for sure at the end of the day. I'd love for there to be that magic pill. But again, because you're in a subordinate role to your boss, you have limited ability to change that behavior, make adjustments to that behavior. So what you want to do is you want to deal with it. So you present things as ideas of theirs, all right? Hey, you might have mentioned this before, but we were thinking about doing something like this. Does that match with what you were thinking before? So you phrase things that way. Now, when it does have to be all about them, what you don't want to do is you don't want to be in a clash with them. So you want to be supportive, and this is a good exercise in being humble. Again, I'm not making excuses for a narcissistic boss, but it gives you an exercise in being humble and being a servant to your boss, which is what all of us should be doing. But if they have particular tendencies, then look to work within those tendencies, not to face those things head on. And it may be that the best thing to do with a narcissistic boss is to ask questions as much as possible. Well, what went into your line of thinking on that? Why do you want to do that? Why is that the best route to go? It's very difficult to kind of dance around that, but that's how I would take that. Difficult to deal with that narcissistic boss, but you have to work with them as much as possible. Nancy, I'm still not getting pool of shared meaning with crucial conversation. Still not getting it. Sorry. For those that have jumped on a little bit later, I am offering free workshops. I'm waiving my fee. All you pay is my travel and lodging expenses, coming out to a bunch of organizations, doing 4-hour leadership development workshops. If you've ever wanted to work with me or had your organization work with me, take a look at the link up above, and we'll see if we can work together. That's a great way of doing it. Next question I have, and this is the last question, so if you have any questions, drop into the comment section. I'll tackle those pretty much in real time. The current company I currently work for is going through some changes over the next with new positions coming available. What is the best way to decide on what is best fit when growing within a company? So when you're looking to grow within a company, the first partner that you want to have is your immediate boss. So whatever those positions are that are coming available, ask your boss what they think of those particular positions and whether those continue to be upwardly mobile. Share with them what your overall ambition is, where you want to go with things, and see what their thoughts are in regards to that. The other thing is then to get with the bosses in those particular areas. Talk about what are you going to learn. Talk a little bit more about the position, whether it is a fit for you, what the upward mobility is. You mentioned growing within the company. So avail yourself of the leaders in those particular areas and pick their brain on what's going on. Now also, not for nothing, you want to spend some time in those areas if possible. Even if that means taking a 5-minute lunch and working for 55 minutes in a particular area. Get a feel for the department, the area, who you're going to be working on, what duties you're going to be performing, that sort of thing. That's what's so vitally important, is making sure that you're a fit for the culture, not just for the job description. So if you're looking to move up in the organization, if there's a lot of changes that are going on, the organization is growing, that's a great position to be in, wonderful position. Avail yourself of your boss and the leaders in those particular areas and pick their brains on the position, the upward mobility, the responsibilities, and then look to spend just a little bit of time. I'm not even kidding. 55 minutes, taking your lunch break and working in that area can often be very enlightening as to whether the organization culture is a fit for you. So great question that I received offline. Now, anybody who's come to this late, if you missed this episode, no big deal. Drop into the comment section. I will get your question on the next episode of Mentor Minutes, which is at tomorrow, noon Pacific Standard Time, if I'm not mistaken. So check it out there. And again, if you're interested in taking me up on my offer, I'm doing some free workshops. I'm coming to you in your organization, groups of 6 to 30, talking through some leadership development exercises. If you've ever wanted to work with me on a personal basis or have your organization work with me, this is your chance. So check out the link up above, and I hope to hear from you soon. In the meantime, everybody take care. Have a happy Halloween, all of those that are stateside, and I know all of those on the other side of the date line, that's all gone by the wayside. But I hope to see you guys tomorrow, noon Pacific Standard Time, for the next episode of Mentor Minutes. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye-bye.